Hi, I'm Liz Naumovski, host of Finance is Personal. Over the years, women have made significant strides in business, law, and even the life sciences sector of STEM, which includes the academic disciplines of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Although more women are graduating from STEM programs and continuing on with careers in STEM, the reality is a significant gender gap still exists. So what can parents do to encourage their young daughters to get interested in STEM? And what are the benefits of getting them involved at an early age? Joining me now to talk about how STEM education can help young people realize their dreams and innovate with confidence is Shirin Merchant. Shirin is founder of Coded Hacks, a technology school designed to train and empower young people in junior kindergarten to grade 12 in computer programming, robotics, and physical computing skills. Shirin was also nominated for the RBC Canadian Women Entrepreneur Award. Congratulations on your nomination and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So, I'm going to begin with a quote that Jeremy Irons said in the movie Margin Call. Talk to me like I'm a young child or a golden retriever, because this is something that I know absolutely nothing about. So, having said that, let's talk about STEM and what exactly is it?
I'll try my best to talk to you like a young child. STEM, simply put together, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We've done a great job with science and mathematics. It surrounded us. We're doing good. We know how to handle it in school. Engineering and technology is something that's taking a lot of spotlight now, and of course a lot of work needs to be done. And the question is, when do you start? Who do you involve? And so many other questions that we can sit here and talk about endlessly.
And that is my next question. So when should children start in this? I know that in the introduction I said from junior kindergarten to grade 12.
Well, my take on that is earlier the better. When kids are really, really young, not even able to sit, we're introducing them to alphabets and numbers and colors. Well, we are stepping into a new world now. We're surrounded by everything that involves computing, and everything is digital now. And these kids that are coming now, they're all digital natives, so to speak. They're born and they start swiping their iPads and they know how to navigate apps better than we can.
Right.
And so why wouldn't you introduce them early on? And by that I mean you want to foster a good relationship with a computer for them early on, give them skills that they're learning. There are so many apps out there that you can use, the educational apps that you can use to get them involved in STEM. STEM does not necessarily have to be all programming and coding. There's so many activities that are out there that fall into STEM. So I believe early exposure is really, really important. And don't forget, it's a spiraling curriculum, right? You're going to be introduced to it, then you're going to come back to it, you're going to learn a little bit more, you're going to learn a little bit more. So the earlier you start, the more comfortable the kids would be in that area.
Okay, so let's step back. I have a new child, let's say, and I give them a pad to swipe. What do I do? What specific apps do I put on there? How do I teach my children to do this?
And I don't want you to misquote me. I don't want you to give them an iPad the moment they're able to sit. There are many, like I can go on how many educational apps that are out there. You can look for one that's giving them some problem solving skills. For example, puzzles are a great one.
Right.
You have the physical puzzles, but if you want to foster that relationship with your iPads or your computer, just get them to get comfortable with using the equipment. Puzzles are a great way to do it. We do mathematical tables on iPads now, so why not tell them how many steps would Boogie Woogie need to take to get to a cave, and how many turns would it take on the way? You do not need to read or write, you just need to listen and see if you can figure out step 1, step 2, maybe you need to know your numbers, but how many hops will you do along the way? So you have to figure that out with your fingers and you can get there. And so it doesn't have to be so educational, it's like a game you're getting into, and there's so many apps out there that you can download. You can literally type on your iPad, search educational STEM apps, and you'll be bombarded with it. So that would be a good place to start.
It's funny, somebody had told me about a program, an app for your cat, right? And so she would download this program, and she said her cats loved it. Mm-hmm. So they'd go and they'd step on the pad, and if they stepped on a mouse on the pad, then the mouse would do like a little squeaky sound, and that's supposed to be fun for your cat. Yet my cat heard it and tried to swipe, and she didn't swipe anything and got frustrated and walked away.
Which is an important lesson for your cat, which is resilience, which is inherently learned when you get into the STEP world, because nothing happens right away. You have to go over and over it, and I think that's a very good transferable skill that kids learn. Not your cat, I can't speak to your cat, but resilience is a big part of STEM that automatically gets transferred in your skill toolbox.
So let's talk about coding. I hear about it everywhere now. It's almost like a buzzword. Everyone says you've got to teach your kids how to code. Every child needs to learn how to code in order to be successful going forward. That was not part of us. Like, that wasn't part of me growing up. I don't know whether it was part of you or not. But now it's become evident that every child needs to learn this. So walk me through this. When do you start your child, and what are the phases going through coding?
Okay, so, well, just take a look around you, right? The world has changed.
Yes.
It's digitally connected. We're always hooked onto it. Anything and everything we use now has got computing in it. So kids have to be comfortable with that. They have to know what world they're stepping in. So from coding perspective, there are so many benefits that come with teaching kids how to code. And by coding, I don't mean you have to start in front of a computer and go tap, 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 tap.
Right.
That will come later on. We're talking spiraling system where you get exposed first. Young kids are exposed to these apps where they're figuring out these little challenges that they have to figure out. How many colors do I pop on to get to a particular place? How do I get my candy from going through a maze, for example?
Right.
You're teaching them logical thinking, and you're teaching them the sequencing of it. Then comes the phase of grades 1 to 3. That's where they can really get into a little bit of programming, yet they're not proficient in reading and writing yet. Mm-hmm. So I have to say, I give a lot of credit to the MIT-based application Scratch, which kind of changed the coding world quite a lot. I wish I had that when I was growing up. And basically what it's doing is giving you visual blocks that you drag and drop. Now you have to understand what those blocks are, but for toddlers, for JKs to SKs, it's not rocket science. They just need to know, oh, I have a Scratch cat who needs to get to the end of the screen. Let's see how many steps will it take. And steps would be arrow this way, arrow up, arrow down, arrow right. So all they have to know is which direction the cat needs to go. Does it need to spin along the way? And they tap on the number. By this time, they have some understanding of number. And if they don't, they can make a mistake and figure out what they need to do it to make it right, and that's where resilience comes in. I wanted my cat to get to the end of it, but it stops in the middle.
How do I get it?
How do I get it?
Right.
Can you try a different number? Let's see what that does. And that way you're making also connection with mathematics, like, what is the exact formula to get the cat from one end to the other end? And so that would be the next stage.
Okay, so let me just stop you there. Mm-hmm. That's junior kindergarten to kindergarten. So when we come back, we're going to start with grade 1 and go forward. So Shirin and I will be back after the break to learn more about the benefits of STEM here on Finance is Personal. Welcome back to Finance is Personal. I'm Liz Naumovski, and we're here today with founder of Code It Hacks, Shirin Merchant. Okay, Shirin, we were talking about junior kindergarten to kindergarten, so now let's progress to grade 1.
Okay, well, nothing much has changed, except the applications get more sophisticated, and I'm using Scratch as a reference, but there are many other applications out there. Now, at this point, if you're brand new starting into the world of coding, not a problem. Again, it's all visual, so you still have to know how to drag and drop. There's a little bit of reading required at this point where you need to know what a movement is, and so you'll see the block motion, and you'll see various different options, how you can make a particular object, or we call them sprites in the coding world. How do you make it move around your screen? The idea behind that is they're not ready for full-on programming yet because they don't know how to type yet, and yes, we do want to frustrate them a little bit so the resilience builds, but not yet, not that much to that intensity. And so at this level, you want to expose them to very visual programming applications like there's Scratch, there's Alice, there are a number of them out there. And again, the core fundamentals don't change. You're still teaching them logical thinking. You give them a problem to solve. How will they solve this problem? One thing you have to understand is that this notion that computers are really brilliant, smart things that can solve our problem, incorrect. Computers are dumb. We are smart. We need to tell the computers what to do.
Right.
And it's like following a recipe. If you have a recipe for making something and if you missed a step, things can fall apart.
Right.
And it's exactly the same with the computer programming. Kids from the very beginning, at least in our program, they know that they have to write down their instructions step by step. And if you do not write step-by-step instructions, then you will get frustrated because something is not going according to plan. And that's a very key life lesson to learn in life early on, that you got to make mistakes to learn where you faltered and, you know, fix those. So coming back to grade 1s and 2s, they need to get exposed to those kind of applications where they're doing a little bit more than what the toddlers would do, but now they're making actual games. They're making maze games, they're making platformer games, and it's a very safe environment where you can make mistakes. It's all very visual, very easy to follow, and still keeping them engaged and exposed to STEM.
So can any child learn to code? Because listening to you right now, it seems to me that, you know, it's very visual and hands-on, and they're actually learning life lessons as they're going through it.
Absolutely, and 100%. A lot of stereotypes are projected, I feel, from our own experiences onto our kids. I do get questions, or I do get hesitations from a lot of parents saying that my child is not very good with math or numbers. I don't think programming is something they'll be able to sit through. And often my responses come to a class, you know, and all the kids see is a colorful visual of puzzle blocks that they have to bring it to their screen, and magic happens on the other hand. Mm-hmm. Inherently, they're learning a lot of skills in the background. It actually complements their math skills, because how would you get, say for example, you have to do a bubble pop game. The bubbles are there and you have to pop it to get a point, for example. Bubbles have to appear randomly. How will you make it appear randomly? Well, there's a block that will make you do that. Right. At what interval are you going to show your bubbles? What happens when you pop? Would it make a sound, or would it just disappear? So you're sequencing your events. You're thinking, you know, nobody should actually, and we don't encourage this, that you just go into programming right away. It's very fulfilling and satisfying to see results right away, but we like to slow down with our students.
But life isn't like that, though.
Life isn't.
Right? I mean, we go through bumps and hills and mountains throughout life.
But we're going through grades 1 and 2, right? They have to inherit these habits early on. Listen, take your time to plan your program, take what you're going to build, and it doesn't have to be 100%. We always follow 80-20 rule. 80%, this is roughly what I want to do. They scribble, they make their, you know, pictures. They're not perfect, but they have an idea of what it's going to be, and then they program it and they make changes accordingly. But inherently, they're learning how to sequence things. They're learning how to logically structure things. They're thinking of events. If this happens, what will happen? Decision making. You know, computers can't make decisions on their own. If I touch the red ball, it'll give me a point. But if it touches green ball, what will happen? So they're already thinking. And my answer to those parents are that you have to expose to them. And you'll be surprised how well the programming skills are going to complement their math skills. And I 100% think anyone can learn to code, because we're so fortunate right now to have these applications that gives us different ways of learning to code. We learned at a green terminal with a lot of keys to type. So it wasn't easy then. It's very easy and a lot of fun.
So what about your classes, or what you've seen out there? There's a huge gender gap I can see right now out in the workforce. Do you see that with all the kids coming up now as well, from, you know, all the young kids that you see? Is there still a gender gap?
Sadly, yes. There is still, and I can only speak to the classes that we conduct. There's great participation at an early age, which is good change that's happening. If you see our programs in JK all the way on, I'd say up to grade 3, we have good balance of mix. Grade 4 onwards, girls are disappearing, or there'll be 1 or 2. Teenage programs, very boy focused. So there is that aspect to it for sure.
You know, it's interesting. When my previous life, I was in broadcasting, and I went to Stephen Leacock Collegiate, and we had a studio built in, and that was part of our electives, right? And as I was getting older, there were less and less girls signing up for those classes. So they asked me to go back and speak to the classes to help, push them forward and help them think about broadcasting as a future, as some sort of a future job. But I don't know whether that is happening right now with the younger girls.
Actually, quite a lot is happening. It's really a good time for women to be taking the spotlight and promoting STEM, because already a lot of work has been put in place. You hear women in STEM, women in technology. So I believe we are doing a lot of work now than we were doing about 10 years ago. And you're absolutely right about bringing in the role models. The girls need to see girl role models. They need to see somebody like them doing programming. They need to see someone like them, engineers, and so forth and so on. So that's a key aspect, I believe, to bring about the change. It is happening. Not so much. The momentum needs to keep going, and we need to push at it.
I think it's important for all of those industries to have female role models come in and talk to the women and let them know, because, regardless of what job you have within the whole STEM industry, it's a way of giving back.
Absolutely.
All those jobs are full of giving back, whether it's medicine or raising funds or science, whatever it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not only you need to give back, you need to make your space in the society, right? We as a whole gender, the women, we need to carve our space, and there's a lot of hard work going into that right now. So the only way we can do that is being out there, talking about it, and giving opportunities to younger generation to see that. And I see that almost as a benefit to both genders. Both genders need to have that balance and realize that we can all coexist and co-work. And there are maybe minor differences, but that shouldn't be a reason to exclude someone out.
So we'll be right back after the break to talk about the importance of girls in STEM. Welcome back to Finance is Personal. I'm Liz Naumovski, and I'm excited to have Shirin Merchant on the show to share her passion of STEM and the future of girls in STEM. So what does this training give to young people now?
There are a lot of transferable skills involved with when you're teaching to program. You're learning problem solving, you're learning logical thinking, you're learning how to be more resilient, because as you become more involved in STEM education, you'll realize you're experimenting and making mistakes, which are beautiful to make, because then you don't forget and you come up with creative solutions. So those are all skills that you need in any aspect of life, especially the one about problem solving. But the one that I'm really keen on getting out and making sure that happens is the confidence building.
Right.
And especially in our program, we do that by team-based programs. So we pair students up in teams when it's possible, when it's a big enough class. And we do that by assigning a leader to a group every week, which is a rotational sort of a thing. So everybody gets the equal amount of spotlight, equal amount of responsibilities of being a leader, equal amount of opportunity to be a good listener, and then helping their desk mates. These are all the skills that you need when you step out in the world, whether it's in higher educational areas or whether it's in your workplace. One thing that for the longest time, for at least 2 decades or so in the field, that I felt was like, you have this persona of a computer program, being a nerd, and sitting behind a computer typing away with glasses. That's not me. But yet I did that for a living, and I needed to take a step up. I needed to lead teams. I needed to be confident, and I needed to be able to articulate what I'm doing. When I have a technical project that I'm delivering to business people, I should be able to make that connection and speak their lingo. And that to me is very important. So in our programs, we make sure absolutely that there is a problem we start with, and there should be multiple solutions or paths to that problem. How would technology enable you to solve those problems? And that is a constant underlying skill that you're developing in these programs. So it's not just the technical skills, it gives you a lot of lifelong learnings along the way.
So with all these classes that you teach, do you see any gender biases in them? Because I know you and I had talked prior to the show, we were talking about questions and what to talk about. And one of the other questions that came up was, do you feel that you should have female-only classes?
Yes and no. I believe it's a good intervention for the moment. What happens is, here's what I've seen. Initially, we have a good balance in our classrooms, girls and boys. As soon as you get to grade 4, 3 even, girls drop. And I've had instances where girls have been signed up and will enter the room and see all boys and will walk away. They're like, no, there are no girls in the class.
Aww.
And so I'm trying to understand this thing, and what I've seen is that I'm not sure what happens in the classrooms, but this is the age where they start seeing, a fit for them. So I'm a girl, therefore I need to do this and that. I'm a boy, therefore I need to do this and that. And if I cross over, I better have a support system, otherwise I'm not sure if I can do this. So that happens, and what I find is that putting them in groups together does help. So it's a good intervention to have girls-only classes, but along with that, I don't think we can just carry this message along and go all in the world with it. We need to have an exit strategy.
Well, because reality is, they'll walk into a boardroom and they'll be the only female in a boardroom. So it's 100%. The same thing as being in grade 3 and walking into a classroom with all boys.
Exactly.
However, when you're walking into the boardroom, you're a little bit older than walking into a grade 3 classroom. So how do we...
And this is the time to capitalize on that. So I think a lot of onus is on educators. We've done the interventions. It's good. You can give your girls an opportunity to start in girls-only program initially. It's just that to spark the interest and give them a little bit of confidence, but they need to come back to a co-ed environment because, like you said, in real world, you'll not be in a bubble, and you'll definitely not be working with girls. But this is where I think a lot of responsibility lies with educators and myself as well. When we are educating our educators, we have to make sure the biases are removed. Right. Because there are more boys in class and say 2 girls in the class, and when the hands are raised, you obviously statistically you're more likely you're going to pick up on a boy, and that's got to change. We got to give equal opportunities, and that's why this leader system works beautifully, because when there's a leader and it's a rotational leader every week, boys and girls get the same training, and boys need to understand that as well, right? It's a training for both the genders. So it's very important to educate our educators to remove those biases and give them equal opportunities.
What about parents? What can parents do to facilitate STEM at home?
Lots, actually. So there's no dearth of STEM toys out there, so that's one way you can go and spend an insane amount of money. But there are lots of things you can do at home without spending and breaking your banks. You have kitchen equipments, you have flour, you have glue. I would say do not throw any of those Amazon boxes that you get, because I've found a new love for all those cardboard crafts. If you can gather those materials at home, one way to spark the love at home is do crafts at home. We have to go back to the basics, because in crafts lies all the engineering. You have to build something. This built object is either going to sit and decor your place or will solve a problem. Maybe you're building a little bridge. Can the toothpicks support my books if they're sitting on jelly beans? How many do I need? These are all things you get at home. I love my toilet paper rolls. We've been making robots out of them, connecting LED lights to it. So it's endless possibilities. You have things around at home. Bring in some slime fun, make some slime. One of the actually 2 magical things in your kitchen would be baking soda and vinegar. Add that to different concoctions and see it fizz and light up and do wonderful things. So you do not have to spend so much money outside, but you can have a craft table. You can have a craft Saturday mornings where you sit as a family and solve these problems and make something fun and do some explosions. And yeah, I can go on about this, but there are so many projects you can do to foster that environment at home.
That's baking as well, right?
Baking as well, right. Exactly. Blow up that muffin. You put a lot of something in it, and yeah. So it's all around us. You can't escape it. But go back to crafts, because crafts would give you this basic foundation of engineering, which I feel like I lacked out on a little bit. You want to engage your kids to be building, different things, whether it works or not. But just give them cardboards and some duct tape and glue, and see what they can come up with, and you'd be surprised.
Creating and being hands-on is really important.
Absolutely.
I mean, we used to have home ec back in the old olden days.
Right.
And the guys used to have shop, and then we used to switch. So we used to, we would build things.
Yes.
And as you said, it's the whole engineering of putting something together, building it. How much glue do you need? How many nails do you need?
Right.
Is it top heavy, bottom heavy? Is it going to stand? Is it going to fall over? That's exactly what you're talking
Exactly.
about.
Go back to the basics.
Now, we were talking as well about, coding and these types of courses being expensive. And not to take anything away from you, because I've heard from one of your students that they adore you and you're fantastic. However, there have to be, some cheaper examples of things to do.
Not only cheaper, and I'm going to be sorry I said that, free. There are a lot of free resources. If you can get your kids involved in coding, and I do truly say it from all my heart that every kid should get involved. There are tons of free websites out there that you can just sign up. Code.org is one major one that I really started with my daughter when I did not have this business. And you can go there and you can start at your level and you can go as far as you want to go. Khan Academy is another one. I'm sure everyone's familiar with. Anything you want to learn, science, math related, you go there. Now they have a programming segment in it. So you can avail those resources. You do not have to sign up for courses. You can start at home, and if interest develops, then by all means sign them up with a program, because then you're getting that group environment and the challenges that come with it.
Thank you so much, Shirin. I think I'm going to start a coding class now.
Okay, go for it.
Remember that in early education in mathematics and other STEM fields can improve your child's learning abilities and narrow the gaps between children's educational achievements. By making STEM interesting in your child at a young age, you can improve their chances of greater success later in life. By doing so, you can help increase the number of young women that will pursue future careers in STEM. Getting more girls in STEM is beyond important. We should help balance the scales by inspiring girls to dream big. Let's continue to inspire, instill interest, and increase involvement. I'd like to thank Shirin Merchant for joining me today, and you, our viewers, for watching. For more information about our show and to view past episodes, go to financespersonal.ca. I'm Liz Naumovski. Bye for now.